So today, as you can see, is a very special episode that we're going to discuss about what we're going to talk in English.
Yes, and today is a replying letter session. How do we call this usually?
Like
letter reading?
Yeah, like people would write something to us and we would reply them in our point of view.
Yeah, and usually we would do this in Chinese, but this letter from a listener is very, very special because she wrote in English. So we thought it would be a good idea to just make it an English episode and then also share with you our thoughts. If you want to check the subtitles, you can always turn it on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's our first time trying it with like 3 different angle shots.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it will be a nice effect.
Yes. So today episode, we're going to read a letter from this listener who hopes to be anonymous. So I'm just going to call her Amy.
Okay.
She says she's been listening to our show for over 3 years. She always listens to our show when she is walking on the street or just like cooking. I think that's like the perfect way to enjoy a podcast, maybe. And she wants to talk about a very special books that we've been talking about in another episode. And it was kind of like a really amazing surprise when we got this letter, because apparently this listener didn't know that we actually made an episode about this book, but still it's like such a wonderful coincidence for us to have this opportunity to talk about this book again in a very different angle.
Yeah, and so later on we will read the letter and then you guys will know which book we are talking about.
I think they already know because we literally put the book right here.
Yeah.
So this setting is actually for aesthetic purpose, but because of this purpose, I think you guys already know what the book is if you're watching our video podcast on YouTube. So I'm going to read the letter from Amy. Amy says, I was talking to my friend the other day and she told me something that made me wonder you guys' point of view. A little background story is my favorite book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. Maybe you two have heard of it or read of it before. We read of it before. Yes. So, but it was an amazing experience for me just how closely I identify with this author, likely due to me having a very similar lifestyle and personality as her. In the book, Dolly mentioned how devastating it was when her best friend got engaged. I had similar feelings from time to time because while I've always been in a stage of talking or dating someone, it was nowhere near a stable relationship, but more of a temporary thing. It obviously made me feel lost and unfulfilled and jealous of people that have it easy. And I low-key like that my best friend right now is also single because I'm a little scared how lonely I might feel if she's not. A few days ago, she told me the exactly same thing that she said. It might sound selfish, but I'm kind of glad that you're also single. And I was like, I'm so glad you brought it up first because I feel so awful for having this thought. But I was just wondering, since you two are both single at the moment, did you guys ever feel the same way about each other and scared that things are gonna change if one of you guys start dating someone? And she quote, it'll definitely change, by the way. So it might be a bigger deal for me as romantic love plays a huge part in my life. Lastly, just want to say how much I appreciate you guys and can't wait for more episodes.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Amy. And I also want to say that, yes, we have read the book and we really liked it. And if you want to check our detailed opinion, you can go listen to one of the last episodes in season 5, I believe.
Yeah, anyways, the title of the episode is literally the book name.
Yeah. So
you could find it on our show website. Before replying about what the letter mentioned, I would like to bring up this topic. I think we actually made an episode about this, talking about how we do enjoy our single life.
Yeah.
But after that episode, I think it's about a year from that.
Or maybe over a year, maybe 2 years ago.
Maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're 27. And what do you think about being single and how do you, how's life about that?
Okay. I think I'm still a very happy single person. I have never doubted the fact that being single is like bad or anything. I think I'm really happy on my own. But recently, maybe it's because I watched a very romantic movie called
The Pact.
Yeah, The Prom Pact.
Oh, and also Bridgerton, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. And like I love watching romantic like comedies or like shows or movies. And recently I just feel like, it would be really nice if I can be in a very loving and, stable relationship. If I can actually feel those feelings instead of just like getting those feelings out of like fictional characters.
I actually heard the key word about like stable relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So you are not looking forward to feel thrilled about, having crush about someone, but you do want someone to show affection to you and get into like a really stable relationship and you two show support to each other.
I think this is a very weird situation. When I fall in love with someone or when I have a crush on someone, I would immediately start to wonder, what it would feel like if we are in a stable relationship.
That actually has a term about it in Chinese. It's called 恋爱脑.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we talk about it like we don't really have that before.
I don't know. Like, I feel like whenever I like someone, it's never like, oh, I want to have a one-night stand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build a family with that person. And it's not like I want to marry whoever I have a crush on. I think it's just because whenever I like someone, usually those people have qualities that are very stable. And so it's very easily for me to imagine like, okay, maybe it would be super easy to think about our life in like maybe 5 years. And so I think it's just a very natural process for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
That sounds that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
To be honest, because when you mentioned that maybe it's because that person personality has some sort of traits about being responsible about their life and they're just like a really calm and soothing person that could always like set the anchor of your life maybe. Mm-hmm. And now I think back, I think I do appreciate to have like a lifetime partner to have that kind of personalities. It would be nice. And yes, it could lead to a really stable relationship because if you two are, really bonding over this kind of really responsible about life and about this relationship, I think, yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, and usually I will fall in love with people who feels like a best friend.
Don't you think fall in love is like a really strong word?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but how do I describe this? I don't really have like a sudden crush on someone. I usually just like a person I have known for a long time. Yeah, so I think that's the one thing very different about us because I have never experienced love at first sight unless it's like for an actor or like an actress. Like I'm just so mesmerized by the beauty. But if it's in real life, I don't really fall in love with a person or like a person just because the person looks very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do think still right now, I do believe in love at the first sight, but that kind of crush never really ended into a like stable relationship. So I do not know if it's a great tactic for me to entering like the love era of my life right now. So I don't know.
So what about you? Like, are you still enjoying your single life or are you thinking otherwise?
Last year, I think I really enjoyed being single, but this year something changes that some of my really close friends, they had a boyfriend like at the end of last year or at the very beginning of this year. And yes, like your friendship changed around it, but still I could feel like we are really good friends. But maybe because most of my friends having another significant other right now, and that surely do make me feel a little bit lonely.
So what is the biggest change? Is it like maybe you go out with these friends once a week and then suddenly it's like once a month?
It's not like that. It's more like when you want to have when you want to strike a conversation, even it's just online, I would started to think about, oh, maybe this topic, like they have already discussed it with their partner. So sometimes you could feel the difference, like this is their first time talking about this, so they'll have like excitement or any kind of emotions and you could feel it. But since they have talked about it with other people, the feeling is just not the same.
Yeah, and especially a lot of people would see their significant others as their best friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that must feel really different when you're like, oh, I have this like worry I want to share with you, but that person has already resolved the whole thing with their life partner.
Yeah.
I think I will feel not like hurt, but I will low-key feel like I'm abandoned in a way.
I didn't think about that way, but I do feel I am much more selective when I wanted to start a conversation with my friends who had a partner right now.
Okay. So does that whole change make you want to fall in love again, or like trying actively to look for, a romantic encounter?
I think yes.
Okay.
But I am not actively right now.
You're just like thinking about,
I'm
maybe
just
it'll be
thinking
nice.
about it. Like that's already a big gesture for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think,
for me only, not for like the world.
Yeah, I think for us, thinking about it is a big deal.
Yeah, because before we never thought about it.
Yeah, because usually I'm like, I would rather just go out with my friends. I think it's, so fun to do that. I don't really want to like spend my time thinking about how do I get a romantic partner.
So what about you? Do you have a lot of friends who enter a relationship like from the end of last year?
I wouldn't say a lot, but some of them are in a very stable relationship. And I think because they didn't happen all at once, so I took it rather well, I think. But when your best friends, like the best of best friends, are in a relationship, you certainly feel a difference, and you will have this pressure like, oh, I shouldn't ask this person out every single week. I don't want to take away her time too much, so that her boyfriend would be like, you're my, secret enemy. You're trying to steal my girlfriend away. I don't want to be that friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be a little bit cautious about that. But normally I feel like my friendship is still very stable and strong, and we still talk about a lot of important things. So I still feel very safe. And especially you're still single. So I don't feel, drastic difference in my life. And so yeah, I think I'm very fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the latter, like Amy did mention about, since we're both single, so we don't really experience that kind of feeling like the person you've been talking every day as friend stop talking to you like immediately, since we do talk a lot still right now. But I don't know what would happen if one of us is in a relationship.
But I think the good thing is, since we talk so much about life, I would be very open about like your romantic relationship. Like,
okay, so if you do enter a stable relationship, you do share whatever happens in a relationship with me.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not like everything, because I think people might get bored with all the, nitty-gritty detail of like, he sent me flowers and,
because I was going to say that, like, I wish you could be more selective if you want to share those kind of information to me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would always say that, the things that you think are so cute about your partner are actually really, really boring to outsiders. So I think that's very true.
If you ever said that kind of topic to me, I feel like I would be always like a number one face, like smiling and say, oh, that's good.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still very happy when I hear my friends talk about, how loving their partners are. But I just don't think I should be passionate about other people's relationships, because I'm not the one participating, in those situations. So I think it's totally normal to feel uninterested. But I think I will be super interested in knowing, how you and your partner communicate and what you think is difficult about maintaining a stable relationship. And I think if we have that kind of conversation, I wouldn't feel like I'm left out in, our friendship. And I think it would be something even more fun to talk about, because right now some of my friends are in a very new relationship, and I would always ask them, like, how do you make sure that you can enjoy something together and both have fun? I would ask those questions so that I can kind of learn from them. And then they would also ask me, like, yeah, how do you think you should solve this if you were the one in the relationship? So I would rather think it's a new chapter for, most friendships. But I do think that sometimes you will have this inner fear that maybe people are ahead of you. Like, just like in the middle of the night, you will think that maybe 5 years later, some of your friends, will have babies and you'll go to their weddings and they will have families, and then you are still single and watching rom-coms at home and sometimes feeling lonely. I guess I would still feel that fear occasionally, although not a lot.
I mean, every time I had that kind of thoughts, I always like remind myself it's a very irrational thinking, but still it's something that maybe someday will happen.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to say like what your future going to look like. But back to the letter, like Amy talked about what Dolly Alderton talked about in the book, like when her best friend got into a really stable relationship and all she thinks is to sort of sabotage their relationship.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced that?
I would say no, because a lot of my friends, they have stayed single for the longest time. They have just entered a stable relationship in the past 5 years. So I think I've matured enough to accept the fact that, your friends have partners and that's okay. And I've also established a life or a lifestyle that makes me able to, stay by myself and on my own and still feel very happy and content. But if that happened when I was in high school, I would probably feel super, super lonely, and I would probably have FOMO and try very hard to pursue love, I guess. And I think sometimes the desperate energy is making people feel worse about themselves, because they will be like, I want it so bad, but how come I can't get it? And this also reminds me of the phrase I saw in Amy's letter. She said a lot of her friends can get it easy, but she herself can never be in a stable relationship. So I really want to ask Amy, like, although I cannot ask her directly, but I just really want to know, when you say have it easy, like, what kind of easy is it? I'm just so curious, because sometimes I think having a relationship is not easy. Maybe it's easy to find someone to be by your side and, not talk about anything. But I think having a very healthy, fruitful, and loving, passionate relationship requires so much work and sometimes a lot of luck. So I do think that even though you are on your own, maybe you still have a lot of fun times. And a lot of people, they don't tend to share the struggles in their, romantic relationship, because it's kind of like a two-person thing. So sometimes people would feel like, I'm spreading people's privacy. And I think that's why people always share the, happy, loving moments. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think sometimes you find, other people, they can always seek love so easily, and then yourself, you can't?
I think I do feel that way, since I find myself really hard to like see someone attractive. And a lot of people would say that's because you are having a really high standard in seeking a significant other. But since we're going to put it that way, like significant others, shouldn't that be like significant decision? So yeah, I always thought about it. So I sometimes, I do feel me myself would be a little bit strange, maybe why I couldn't find someone attractive that easily, and why I couldn't just, fall in love with someone that maybe show a little bit of affections to me or whatever. But I right now, I would just talk to myself like, it's all about decision. It's my own decision, and I am not tend to share this kind of decision to others. I am not like letting people to choose what my love life going to be. So really, it's just all about me. So maybe I do have high standard, but that high standard is only like qualified to me. So I am not like talking people, oh, you fall in love too easily, you shouldn't be like that. I'm not judging you. So I just hope people won't judge me as well.
Yeah, of course. And I think you're totally right. When I hear people say that, oh, you have such a high standard, I'll be like, why not? Unless you're complaining all the time and then you have a super high standard, like, I want to date a supermodel who's like super rich, then I think people can judge you because you're doing something very contradictory, like you're complaining but not actively looking for someone to provide you with a little bit of love. But I think right now, your standard is high because you and yourself have the most wonderful quality time.
I actually feel like my standard might not be high. It's just like very niche, because it's all about me, really. It's since I've spent a lot of time with myself, so of course I know myself better maybe than other people who have been many relationships maybe. So I do know what I like and what I don't like. So I have very specific quality that I'm looking for. So maybe it's just because I'm looking for very niche people, and it's just gonna take some time to find it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I'm also curious as to what qualities Amy is looking for, because I think for a lot of people, a partner is someone who can fight with you and build a family together. But for others, maybe a partner means that this person has to match you mentally and physically. And so if your standards like that, I think it's only normal that you will find a lot of people, not qualified to be in your circle, maybe not even in your friend group. And so I think it's totally normal that some people, they can find partners easily. Maybe it's just because they want something a little bit simpler.
Yeah, and also that reminds me of gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're really just gatekeeping our love life, or maybe we just shut down our love radar, like on purpose.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially I think I'm not really good at dealing with like flirting back and forth with people that I don't really know well. So I think it's all about choice. And maybe like the environment will play a big part too, because if your family and your friend group keep telling you like, oh, you need to do this, you need to find a loved one, or like someone to be with and to build a home, with, then obviously you will feel a little bit pressured. But I think we are lucky that most family members and friends around us would always tell us like, you're doing great, and there's no problem with you. I think that's the most important thing. Like, people are telling you that, being yourself is not a problem, and not finding love, it's not weird.
And I think the situation between us to Amy is something different, because Amy does mention that romantic love plays a huge part in her life. And I think from our point of view, I don't think love life has a huge role in my life, even right now. But I don't know about you. Maybe you change your thoughts like from the passing 2 years.
I would say that being single is so making me happy, like I said before. But I think romantic love is important to me, but I can still get fulfillment out of like fictional characters. So I guess that's why I'm not like desperately seeking someone real. But if that can happen, that's a plus.
I saw a meme last week, and it said like, if you do want to like get out of a single situation, stop imagining to be with your like fictionary character.
Oh, well, I guess I can say that I'm not like always in a fictional world, but I just get touched by romantic love in movies and books a lot. And maybe it's because I'm built this way, like I don't require a lot of like physical touch and affection to make me feel I'm valued and I'm worthwhile. But I think for other people, it's a huge part, and I don't think we should ever deny who we are. And actually, for the longest time, I thought I was asexual. And so if you guys know what asexual is, being asexual actually means that you're not physically attracted to like real human beings, I think. And they might feel very, very happy when they see love in real life. It's not like they don't feel anything when they see love. But I thought about that because I was like, I guess I'm a little bit different from people around me, because a lot of people around me, they will be like so excited to be in love, or they would try so hard and it doesn't feel like an effort. They would just be like, yeah, I want to go on dating apps, I want to meet these guys. But for me, it's like, I would rather just sit at home and read my book. So I was thinking about that, but then I decided that I don't ever want to label myself, at least until right now. I still think that it's a stage that I'm most comfortable in. Yeah, so I did have that kind of weird transition, but I think it's just who I am, and it's never weird. I think a lot of people are like me, like we crave love, but just not in the traditional accepted way.
Yeah, I totally get you, because we talk about it in the episode that we talk about this book, what we think of love. And we do think of love from many other aspects, like outside of a romantic way, since we feel love from our family members, we feel love from our friends, we feel love from, fictionary story maybe. But still, we do hope like one day we could find our own romantic love relationship. I mean, but somehow I just feel like it's kind of like a dream to me, maybe.
Maybe not, because, you know, the other day when you mentioned that maybe romantic love is something that you want to seek, I actually got really excited. I'm like, you know, good for you. And
are you exposing me in front of everybody?
Is it okay to talk about that?
Yeah, it's all right.
And also, since I saw the letter, and I think that the friendship between Amy and her friend is very lovely and cute, and, you know, with a lot of honesty, I think it should be okay for your friends to talk about, like, I'm actually a little bit worried about your life after you get into a real relationship. Because if you value a person, of course you'll be wondering, like, okay, after this change, do I need to be a little bit different? Do I need to act a little bit differently? And so I think maybe we didn't have that kind of conversation before, but I think the discussions that we had were quite similar to this. Like this situation mentioned in the letter, right?
Yeah. Like just that, like what I mentioned at the very beginning in this episode is that some of my friends are in very stable relationship right now. And yeah, sometimes I do think twice before I approach them. But I just feel like you have to respect your own life since you used to be together most of the time. But right now, there's something really special happening in their life. And I'm just really happy for them. And I want them to feel the most comfortable stage in that kind of relationship. Like life has so many things to deal with. And they have like, they have work life, they have their relationship, they have like family relationship and friendship. Like they have so many things in their pocket. So I would just want to be there and be really supportive to them.
Yeah, and also I think if other people listening to this are having the same worry, I think it will be a good idea to kind of briefly mention this in front of your best friend or your friend group. Because I think if you can discuss this, then you can be excited for each other's big life events. Like you can be like, oh my gosh, I'll be so excited at your wedding, or, you know, I'll be so excited to talk to you about how you manage your relationship or how you raise your kids, whatever. And I think if the other person thinks that, oh, you're excited about my life, then they will also be more willing to share. I think it's a, you know, two-way communication. So I would always tell people like, yeah, you can tell me about, you know, your worries in a relationship. You don't you ever think that I will feel like it's boring.
Yeah, or it's totally not a burden to us because our life is boring to most of the people, I think.
Yeah, and I think it will just be a good way to, you know some interesting stories.
Yeah, to like experience a story that we've never really had experience in, and that just fulfill our point of view in the romantic world.
Yeah. All in all, I think Amy, you are A-okay because you and your friends, obviously, you have a very stable and strong friendship. So I think it's only normal to worry about that since the world is still kind of telling, especially women, to, you know, get in a relationship as early as possible. And if you're not, people will label you with a lot of like bad terms, telling you like you're too old, you're, you know, unable to give birth to babies, something like that. So I think we cannot change the society right away, but at least don't put yourself in that kind of situation or think about not having a partner as something to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least for us, we think it's amazing to be, you know, single and thriving. And if you want a partner, it's totally okay to tell people that you crave love because who doesn't?
And I think what's really amazing in the friendship that you mentioned in this letter is that you guys talk about this openly.
Yeah.
It's not like you have this kind of feeling, but you don't want to talk about it with her. And there's started to have like a little barrier between the friendship and everything will feel different, even if you two are not in a relationship. And that's like the worst scenario for me in the relationship. So I think because you two are very open to each other, even when one of you get into a relationship, I still feel like you could stay that communication pathway really wide and open. I just hope it that way. And I hope us will be that way as well.
Yeah. And I think, of course, some people, when they get married, when they have kids, they will be too busy to maintain friendship. And I guess that's also a part of growing up. And if people are out of your life due to many reasons, I guess it's also something we have to accept, because you lose friends and then you gain friends.
When you get into like late 20s, you would started to notice how many couples are going into the end of the aisle, and you know, they started to have their own family. They started to have a lot of things happens around in the world, and maybe you're just not always going to be there, be a part of it. But I feel like that's the time you could really think about your life, maybe.
Yeah, and I think I'm getting more and more sensitive in terms of how people view my relationship with them. Like, I don't know if you have experienced this, but sometimes your friends might be really busy, but you can feel that they really appreciate their time with you.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they might not meet you regularly, you'll always be like, yeah, we can be so close once we meet up in person. But some people, you can, you know, just like feel that there's a slight...
like energy change.
Yeah. You just feel like you are not a priority. It's not like you need to think of me as your like BFF, but you just feel that change. And maybe you want to do likewise. Maybe you can just put that person, you know, in the outer circle of yours so that you feel more comfortable. And I think it's a very necessary change. You don't need to cling on to someone who doesn't really value you that much. So I think it's something that I've recently learned, and hopefully it will be a little bit helpful for Amy and anyone who has the same life experience.
Yeah, I just feel like we all still learning.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we are putting this message out there. Like, I don't think we have given up on, you know, the idea of being loved, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, at least around me, they'll be like, why don't you guys talk about like relationship problems? Some of my friends actually ask me like, why don't you talk about this on your show? This is such a good topic for you guys. And I'm like,
wait, what kind of relationship problems if we're not even in a relationship?
Because I think a lot of people find it still very hard to believe that we have...
Oh, you mean like zero experience?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of people would be like, I think you guys, you know, like the idea of love. Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk about your experience? And this is why, because we have always talked about our thoughts, like inner thoughts, instead of real life experience. So that's why we have nothing to offer other than our, you know, wisdom in our heads.
Actually, we're planning on our membership only episode. We're going to talk about our crush experience.
Yeah.
But no, our experience of having a crush.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That will be juicy. So if you want...
You think?
I for our standards, it's going to be juicy. Yeah, so if you are interested, you can join our membership. And if you're dealing with like friendship problems, then I think this book is perfect. You can read it in Chinese, or you can find the original version in bookstores. I think she's very, very humorous when she tells the story of her sabotaging her best friend's relationship. It's not funny, but she makes you feel so connected to her story, and you'll definitely feel like, oh, we have experienced the same things, even though she's a couple of years older than us. But I think it's a very relatable book. So yeah, highly recommend this one.
Yeah, so if you do want to know more about what we think about this book, we do have an episode talking about it. And also, if you want to share about how your life being single, do you feel lonely? Do you feel left out in a friendship, or you actually do enjoy being single for a very long time? We hope to see you in our Instagram inbox, and I can't wait to see those stories, because I feel like we do need those stories to tell us that romantic relationships shouldn't just be one shape.
Yeah. So if you like this episode, or if you like our podcast, feel free to leave a 5-star comment on Apple Podcast, and we will see you in our next episode very soon.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for listening to us or watching us on YouTube today. And we'll see you next time. So, Afternoon Girls Club, dismissed.
Bye.